Greetings world, and welcome to the falsification of the patriarchy theory, the series in which we will examine the core tenets of the patriarchy theory in depth in order to try and falsify them. I define the patriarchy as a social structure dominated by men in which women are subjugated. It's a foundational feminist theory, and subsequently its falsification means that the feminist theory basically collapses completely, if we are to be consistent. We will see later on that all of the feminist theory basically refers back to the foundational feminist theory of patriarchy. The patriarchy theory is basically unfalsifiable, which means that I'll try to identify manifestations of the patriarchy to falsify. I use Sylvia Warby's 6 manifestations of patriarchy from her work, Theorizing Patriarchy. Sylvia Warby opposes Marxist feminism, and I see this as a good thing. Basically what Marxist feminism does is that it uses another definition, that the patriarchy is basically an extension of capitalism and the problems of capitalism, and we're not going to address this here. This is Sylvia Warby right here. She writes, quote, "There are 6 main patriarchal structures which together constitute a system of patriarchy. These are a patriarchal mode of production in which women's labor is expropriated by the husbands, patriarchal relations within wage labor, the patriarchal state, male violence, patriarchal relations in sexuality, and patriarchal culture," unquote. These are the manifestations that we will address, basically taken from the English language Wikipedia. As for manifestations 1 to 4, these can be falsified with hard evidence. However, 5 and 6, these are more subjective, I reckon, and these rely on arguing the opposite case, which I'll do. The falsification is largely a logic-based falsification, and it's going to work like this. It is a binary logic which assumes 2 genders, so demonstrating that one gender, as it were, disproves the hardship of another, basically. So I'll be arguing the opposite case, which then becomes the men's rights case. Continuing on, we can see the syllogism, if X, then not Y. If Y, then not X. Y, therefore not X. And X represents women are more discriminated against, and Y represents men are more discriminated against. It's important to notice also that this is not a hardcore binary as such. It could be seen more as a continuum, so we could see that if men are almost as disadvantaged as women, then there's the case for patriarchy is significantly weakened. It will hopefully be an 8-part series, 1 for the introduction and caveats, this one for each manifestation of patriarchy, and 1 for summary and conclusion. The content will be quotes by Sylvia Warby, references to relevant feminist and men's rights works, my personal commentary, and sources as indicated, as well as examples from Denmark, but primarily the US. And it's important to recognize that these examples are referenced more implicitly, so you can see in the source where they are from, but I will not state explicitly where they are from. I'm basically motivated by the lack of an in-depth refutation of the patriarchy theory, but also I'm interested in combating the propagation of certain lies resulting in discrimination against men. So I'm arguing the men's rights case, but similarly, at the same time I'm recognizing the different issues of both men and women. And I'll be providing, hopefully, suggestions for a new women's rights case. There's nothing more to say now other than let's get started.